winter snowy day outside, and I'm all cozy in here with my snowman. It's not Christmas anymore, but it's still winter, so I'm still going to drink out of all my snowman stuff. Cozy, cozy. So today's is a part 1. So I will be finishing up with part 2 tomorrow, and we are going to be talking about listening. It doesn't sound like a very glamorous subject, but it is a very important one. And I say this a lot, but it's true. It's been on my mind for a long time now because I, as most of you know by now, have personal triggers around not being heard. Also because what I do for a living when I meet with people one-on-one is listen. And I've come to realize in the last while that the listening that I do is actually more important than the teaching I do. And I had an experience happen this last week that solidified that. I took my daughter Trinity. I was one of the chaperones for a field trip, and we were at a museum, and I was in charge of this group of 5 kids. So, it's like there was a parent for every 5 kids, and we're walking around this museum. And one of the boys in my group was trying to get someone else's attention. He had made something. He'd made a little figure out of these materials they had for the kids to play with at the museum. He's trying to get his friend's attention. And he just kept saying over and over and over this friend's name, over and over and over. Well, that other friend was busy doing their own thing and wasn't listening. This child could not move forward until he was heard. Finally, the other kid, what? Look at this cool figure I made. Ooh, that's awesome. I love it. Instantly, I watched the first child totally relax and move on with what he was doing, move to the next thing. So I thought, oh, that's so interesting because listening has been on my mind so much lately. I'm going to take note of that there are some people who really need to be heard before they can move forward. So then it happened again, this time with another one of those 5 kids in the group that kept calling out for someone to listen to them. The second they were heard, listened to, witnessed, and acknowledged, they relaxed and were able to move on with what was next. I thought, oh, that's so interesting. In this very short period of time, it's now happened twice. I could see it everywhere. For the rest of the day, for the next 3 hours, I probably watched this dynamic happen 12, 15 times. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a human thing. This is a human need. The human need to be heard, to be witnessed, to be acknowledged is vital in us being able to move forward. Now, there may be some of you out there that are so effing spiritual. Bless your hearts that you're just past ever needing to be heard or witnessed or acknowledged. Kudos to you. You should probably be the one doing this show. But I'm not even close to past it. So I'm just going to talk to the people who are not past that need. Can you tell that's one of my pet peeves? When people are like, oh, I don't know. I don't have that need. I'm over here like, bullshit. Anyway, back to our regularly scheduled program. So listening is such an important thing that I wanted to break it into 2 different ones. So we're going to talk today, we're going to start talking, and there's going to be some crossover, so just be prepared for that. And remember, repetition is fine. Today I want to start with talking about what people often will call active listening, and that I call deep listening. So it doesn't really matter the title, but it's listening from a different place. So, of course, we've covered before on Coffee with Dawni some of this, and I just thought it deserved its own video. Often how people listen is waiting to speak themselves. They listen because they're listening to you for a minute, but they're really thinking of how they're going to change your mind, or how they're going to teach you, or how they're going to show you how what you just said affects them, right? Now, this can be in a conversation where it's a reciprocal conversation, which is what we're talking about right now. So this is not like a therapy setting or a coaching session. This is where it's, two people getting together and having a back and forth communication. Some of the skills are going to be the same. So listening to understand so that you're not thinking about what you're going to say next. You are actually, truly, deeply desiring to understand that person, getting to know who they are. What are their values? What are their preferences? What are their opinions? What has been their life experience? Okay? So listening to understand leads to listening to connect. Where are we alike here? What rapport can we build? Where do we have the same end goals? Or where can we cooperate? Where can we collaborate? Where can we work together in a way that will bless both of us? So, listening to understand, listening to connect, and this is one that, I love this one. Listening to expand. Are you able to listen to somebody who may even be saying things that are outside of your comfort zone? Talking about things that you don't know very much about, or talking about things that you may even directly disagree with. Can you listen to expand with an open mind and an open heart? And because there may be something you have never considered before. There could be a way that you've been judging people, but now you hear from someone in that situation, and you're able to hear it in a way that changes your judgment. We can seriously and truly learn from every single person we come in contact with if we're willing to listen from these places. Can you kind of start to feel into the difference of that? Now, I think that we have an idea in our head that we are doing this. From my observation, and this is something I notice a lot, very, very few people are doing this. I shared with you in a previous video about being at the coffee shop and listening to people having conversations based on complaints. But that one of my main takeaways from that was that they were not listening to each other. They were just so anxious to speak and express that the deep need that we have to express, which is also a human need, can block us being able to listen. Does that make sense? But what's really powerful is when there is both. When there is a back and forth of listening, expressing, and each person is feeling truly heard. It's like, to me, it's like the same energy as having a really good meal. And you're like, oh, yes, that felt so good. That tasted so good, right? That was exactly what I needed. That's the same feeling I get when I'm truly heard and when I truly hear. There's something that about the fullness of that experience of having both of those things in one experience. So I'm going to give a couple of things to watch for. Please watch you dominating the conversation. If I was to ask a question of a group of people, let's say I'm giving a talk in front of 200 people, and I'm going to say, raise your hand if you're somebody who typically dominates the conversations they're in. I'm guessing I'm going to get maybe 5 hands, whereas at least half of the people in that room will be the type that dominate conversations, but are not aware of it. Be willing to notice, be willing to observe the next couple of conversations you have. Are you interrupting? Are you dominating? that? Are you making everything about you? P.S. Total disclaimer in all of this, if any of you are sitting there going, Dawni, you've done that, I probably have. In fact, I'm sure I have. And I want to apologize to any of you watching this that I have done that too. Especially recently, I've really been trying to watch this and not do this, not dominate, not interrupt. Allow people to finish their thoughts. Now, on the other side of this, if you are someone who is being dominated, one really good way to handle this, and it can be awkward, but it's worth it. This is being assertive. If someone continually interrupts you, you can just kindly say, hold on just a minute, I just want to finish this thought. See, that's very non-confrontational, but it's still assertive. Hold on just 1 minute, I really want to finish this thought. So that can be a powerful way if you are the type that usually gets dominated in conversation or gets interrupted in conversation. I want y'all to raise your hand out there. Who are my people that hate being interrupted? Right? It's like, can I please just effing finish what I was saying? Okay, thank you. But you don't have to be passive aggressive like that. Even if that's what you're thinking in your mind. The other thing is be aware. Watch for cues. Watch for body language. If you're going off on a rant of some kind, maybe you're getting really negative, you're getting really angry, and you see the other person, right, shrinking back and like kind of slumping down, and it's too much for them, just notice that. It doesn't mean anything's wrong with you, but you may be talking to someone who's just not up for that conversation right now, and that's okay, right? It's okay to have those boundaries, but be self-aware. Watch for those cues. Are you talking for so long in what is meant to be a back and forth conversation that the other person's eyes are glazing over? I've seen this one. Guaranteed I've been on both sides of this one. But just know when it's time to ask them, so, I'd love some feedback on that. Or what do you think about that? The other thing is, if there is something that you want to share that is dark, that is traumatic, that is, just, a hard thing to listen to, ask permission to share that. Make sure the person is in the place to hear that. There's been days when I have just been chatting lightly with a friend and all of a sudden they're telling me about this deep childhood trauma and I'm not really in a place that day where I can handle that, and it's almost like shocking to the system. And sometimes if I'm not prepared for it, like I would be if I was in an actual session, right, as a coach, then it can kind of shut me down and be somewhat traumatizing for me. So be careful to just be self-aware and ask for permission to share things like that. And make sure that they're in a place where they can handle that at that time. Because most of the time I'm in a pretty good place for that, but sometimes I'm just simply not, especially if I'm not feeling physically well that day. Okay? But there's even, I don't want to, let's see the right word to put this. There is a context for this. There is an overriding energy to this type of listening where you truly have an intention to understand, get to know somebody, to connect with somebody, and to expand on your life and your knowledge through this conversation, that just setting that intention can be extremely powerful. So I'm going to go into one more piece of this. You see why this is a two-parter? There's a lot of juicy information here. The other piece of this I want to bring up is when we are debating. So we're talking to somebody, this happens a lot with families, right? It's a nice little Sunday dinner with your parents and siblings, and all of a sudden politics and religion comes up. And oh boy, here we go. All bets are off, and it's passive-aggressive sister-in-law over here, and martyr mom over here, and, bully brother over here steamrolling, interrupting everybody. You got your niece crying in the corner because her little feelers got hurt. Do you see what I mean? We've all been there. So what about these situations? What about where the conversation has could possibly be confrontational, there's a lot of disagreements. Where do you stand in that if you're listening from this place? Now, this is going to be counterintuitive because what we want to do is fight, flight, or freeze. So when something comes up that is very intense, like this kind of a situation, you're going to get the fighters. Where are my Aries? What? I know you. Okay, not all of you. I know I stereotype the signs, but I'm 99% right. So you're going to get the person that person's going to raise their voice, then I'm going to raise my voice even higher. Or you're going to get the flight, which is the person who excuses themselves to use the bathroom because things have gotten too confrontational and too contentious. You've got the flight, the person who's going to just completely slump down in their chair and shut down. Or you have the freeze. So the freeze and the flight can seem very, very similar, but the freeze a lot of times will shut down and will start thinking of something else in their mind. They'll start oh, what would you like me to pass you the mashed potatoes? Distract. How do we not be any of these? How do we stay present? First of all, a couple of really deep breaths here help. I put my hand over my heart. You can put your hand over your belly, even kind of over your throat in a non-dramatic way. You don't have to be oh, right? But just bring yourself back into your body and then employ the same exact things we just talked about. What if your passive-aggressive sister-in-law is actually making a really good point, even though the sound of her nasally voice makes you want to smack the shit out of her? But what if you can hear past that, listen to understand, listen to expand, and you can learn something there? If you can stay inside your own body, allow yourself to have your preferences and your opinions, but be open to listening to other people, even if you don't agree, but you now understand them a little better. All of the same things I just talked about can apply when it comes to disagreements, debates. So allow the other person or the other people to have their voice. Know when it's time for you to have your voice. Try not to interrupt. Stand up for yourself when you're interrupted. But it still keeps coming back to the intention to listen, to understand, connect, and expand. It can be a lot. It really can. But I'm telling you, if you are willing to be one of the people that practices this type of listening, oh my word, it is such a blessing to this planet. We need as much of this as we can possibly get. You will start to be known as somebody who is compassionate, who cares, who is wise, and also who is able to hold space, which we are going to go into in part 2. So I'm going to end this now. Part 1 is over. I love you guys. May your coffee be strong and your life be blessed. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. It really helps out my channel. And if you would be interested in working with me further, you can check out DawniAngel.com. I would love to come speak to your group, come to your business to do a training, be on your podcast, my personal favorite, or even work with you one-on-one.